everyone, and welcome to Kitten Lady and Friends. I'm Hannah Shaw, and this is my new interview series that I'm going to be doing for the next 8 Saturdays. I'm going to be talking to some of my favorite people in cat welfare and learning from some of the most interesting experts about different topics in cat welfare to keep us all informed and educated. I want to thank my friends Royal Canin for partnering with me on this as part of their continued educational catology series. They have a lot of great initiatives right now, including their Take Your Cat to the Vet campaign. And if you missed it, I recently did a kitten care webinar series with them, so you can check that out also at kittenlady.org/webinar. Super excited to bring on my first guests, but before I bring on the human guests, I want to mention I do have some very special kitten guests with me. I have a kitten cam, and these babies are all very sleepy right now, as you can see, but we'll be able to check in on them throughout the next hour and all of the cuteness that is going on over there. Oh my gosh, someone's getting their head bunny kicked. Okay, so we'll have the kitten cam on throughout the next hour, but I want to bring on my human guests now. My human guests are Chris Gutierrez and Shelly Casey. They are the founders of the Catcade. The Catcade is a fantastic 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Chicago, and they are a cat rescue like no other. It's actually an arcade that you can go into and play games and meet an adoptable cat. You can fall in love while you're watching, your favorite 80s movies and playing some fun games. It's somewhere that I've been lucky to be able to visit myself, and I just love the work they do. They've been open only since 2017, and in that time, they've already adopted out more than 1,000 cats. So I love the life-saving work they're doing. It's one of the most creative places you'll ever visit. So before I bring them on, let's watch the fun video of all of the rules for the road when you're visiting the Catcade. This is a video of Chris and Shelly, along with our cat advocate friend Adam Myatt, explaining the rules for entering the Catcade. Let's watch.
Hi, I'm Adam Myatt, and I'm here at the Catcade to give you a few tips and tricks to maximize your Catcade experience. For your safety and theirs, please don't pick up the cats. Sir, please put the cat down. Get back here! Please don't be rude, obnoxious, or loud, and keep your hands and face off the glass. Please don't beat up the arcade games. Please don't battle in our bathrooms. Please don't chase after the cats.
Anyway, so that's the first time I peed my pants in 7th grade.
Oh my god, it's so funny!
Hey guys, please use your inside voices. Most importantly, make a reservation at thecatcade.org. Your donations help support Chris and Shelly and the wonderful rescue that they've started. Is that good?
I think so.
I love that video. Okay, hi, Chris and Shelly. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Hannah.
So, who are you joined by?
This is Connie. She is currently our foster cat right now. She's got some medical
hi,
needs.
Connie.
We're taking care of her.
That's awesome. Thank you for having Connie on. Can you guys quickly explain, for anyone who's never been to the Catcade, what can people expect if they visit the Catcade? Like, tell me about your organization and what it does and what it's like.
Well, we are a nonprofit cat rescue, and dressed up as a cat cafe and adoption lounge. We are an arcade themed, like you mentioned. We have arcade games and whatnot, and I'll let Shelly take over.
Yeah, it's our version of a cat cafe. So you can pay $15 to come in and visit cats, and you can just hang out with them and let them lay in your lap for an hour, or you get the chance to adopt them. But either way, all of the proceeds from our entry fee goes to help us continue to rescue more cats like Connie who need special medical needs.
That is so awesome. So obviously, you guys in normal times, you're like a cafe that you can walk into, a cat adoption lounge you can walk into off of the street if you have an appointment. But right now, with everything kind of shifting with the pandemic. I feel like it's impacted every single industry, and cat welfare is no exception. It's made a big impact on all of us. So I'm curious, what is happening for you as a place that's usually a public facility? How has the pandemic impacted, the way that you do your mission? Because your mission still continues, right? You just maybe have to change things a little bit.
Yeah, and Shelly's done an amazing job. We've transitioned into a foster-based rescue currently for the past almost 5 months now since we've been closed.
Wow.
And we've been able to kind of move all of our business online. So she's done an amazing job. Long story short, she primarily concentrates more on the rescue aspect. I can concentrate more on the branding aspect of everything, and we kind of both reel each other in when we get too far out. So.
Oh, here's Connie. That's a picture of Connie who's in your lap. So you're doing fostering yourselves now. When you set out to start the Catcade, did you intend to have a foster program, or how did this kind of happen?
We assumed we would get to a point where we'd have cats in foster, but having a brick and mortar shelter, it just allows us to house the cats there, where we can constantly have staff who's watching them, making sure that they're taken care of. And it was easier that way than having, a foster program with, 50 cats that are not physically in our hands. So this was definitely like a complete change in how we do things. We've had a lot of kitten fosters, but not to the extent that we have now.
Sure. Yeah. I think like in animal welfare, one thing that you have to bring to the table if you're going to be involved in rescue is flexibility. Because it's like you never know what's going to get thrown at you. And I feel like you can have one idea of what you want to do, but you also have to live within reality, and things change.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that you touch on was like being in animal welfare, there's no consistency with anything.
Right.
Sure, you might be bringing in cats, or kittens, and you have no idea what you're going to get day to day. Everything is a roll of the dice, whether it's going to be parasites or an upper respiratory infection or a heart problem. You have no idea, and all of these things are going to vastly affect your budget as well. So.
Sure. Yeah. How about with the pandemic, how is that impacting your ability to do things like adoptions? I mean, people can't come in off the street and meet your cats now. So how are people able to continue doing adoptions? What have you guys had to figure out to be able to do that?
Right. We have completely turned our adoption program into virtual. Everything about it is done either online or through video calls, or just sending videos and pictures to people about, hey, this is what the cat is. We do
a lot of FaceTime.
A lot of Chris was just doing a FaceTime
really?
call this afternoon. Yeah. So we do our best to showcase, the cat's personality. But because you're not meeting the cat, it does change things. And we get a lot of people who want to wait until they can meet the cat.
Which we understand.
It's totally reasonable.
But just with this pandemic we're doing our best to be responsible business owners, and we just don't really want to contact. Yeah, we just don't. Yeah, exactly.
You guys have been doing a lot, not just for, cats, but also even for humans during all of this. This has been a hard time for everyone. And I'm curious if you can talk about what's going on in this photo. I pulled this off your social media. This is not usually what the Catcade entrance looks like. So what's going on here?
Some days. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we were packing toiletry kits. You can see one of our employees, Anna, putting together toiletry kits that consisted of shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, body wash, feminine hygiene products, toilet paper. It just had everything. That was actually one of our fosters was putting together kits at home. So that's Diego. He was helping.
What was this for?
Yeah, so it was for a nonprofit in Chicago called the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago. And they're located on the south side, and they do a lot of work with neighborhoods who just don't have the resources.
And are impacted by a lot of violence as well.
Yeah.
I love that you guys are not just, you're a cat organization, but you guys have such big hearts, and you're really shifting so that you can rise to the occasion, not just for the cats, but also for, the community members right now. I think that's awesome. And I love that photo of your little foster baby with the supplies. So cute.
Yeah, and we did another fundraiser for Brace Face Alliance, which is the first and I believe only, right? Black trans organization on the south side of Chicago, and we just raised $4,000 for them.
Wow.
By our church.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So we try
That
to
is
give back as
awesome.
the community, because those are the people who are adopting our cats. It's not just about animals, it's the people who care for them as well.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for that. That's awesome. So what I want to focus on today is like what it really takes to run a rescue, because I think you guys are so great. Like you started your rescue in 2017 and you have just like skyrocketed and taken off. And even in the time I've known you, like it just blows me away to see how much more you're doing every time I talk to you. I feel like every time I talk to you, Shelly's got like 10 kennels in her hands, like carrying cats out of the shelter. And you guys do so much. So I'm curious if you can kind of talk to me about your transition from just being like cat curious, cat loving people to being where you are now. Like how did this idea come about, and then how did you go about making it a reality? What was that like for you?
Well, I think both of us have the same story, but it's different. It's different perspectives. But I think that mostly where it really comes from is two people who were confused about their future. We didn't know where we were going to go. Both of us kind of had little things here and there, but it never felt like a good fit. It never felt like it was something that reflected who we are personally as well. And we've talked about this a bunch, things that we were doing that we just didn't feel fulfilled doing, and we put in too much energy in all the wrong places. And what the Catcade is a combination of both of us equally. Whether that's good or bad. And, so, I mean, but that's the thing that makes us what we are, and what I think that makes us
So
stand
was
out
there like a
bit.
moment where you were like, let's start a cat rescue? Like, what was that conversation?
Go ahead.
Yes. I was watching a lot of pit bulls and parolees at the time on Animal Planet. And I was like, what? I'm going to do this for cats. That's it. Like, I just want to spend, and I had what a lot of people say, where they're like, I want to spend every day with cats. You get to do that. I'm so jealous of you. And that was my mentality at the time. And I was like, I'm going to spend every day with cats. It's what I'm going to do. And I told Chris, I was like, we're going to start a cat rescue. We're totally going to do it.
Mind you, we were always cat people, both of us.
I wasn't.
Well, for her birthday, like I did some totally sketchy thing and contacted a rescue, and I put out there and I said, hey, I want to have like a kitten party for my girlfriend for her birthday. And they brought over a whole bunch of kittens, and then I surprised her with that. So that was like one of the things that we did for each other. And so
and then you were like, I need to be surrounded by kittens at all times. And then you made your dream a reality.
Go ahead.
It became this thing where I was like, how do we save more cats? Chris won't let me adopt more cats. So how do we save more that need to be saved? And we'll just start a rescue. It'll be really easy.
Hold on. So she was I still remember the moment. And I've told this a million times. She was watching Pit Bulls and Parolees, and I was making an arcade game because that's what I used to do.
On the floor in our living room.
Literally drilling. I remember where I was drilling and everything. And she goes, you know what? I want to start a cat rescue. We're going to start a cat rescue. And I was like, okay. Now, mind you, she's come up with a lot of different ideas that never came to fruition. So for me, I thought, oh, okay, just add that to the pile of things that she's going to do when she grows up. And then, so I never took it seriously. But, go ahead.
Well, no.
I just needed to add this in there.
He's sitting there working on this game. And
no, I love it.
It could be a cat cafe. Like, the idea just started like, we could just combine it, and the cat cafe will help pay for the rescue portion and pay for, the medicines and everything we need. And he's like, what if we put arcade games in it? Like super nonchalant. And I'm like, duh. So
Just because that's what I was doing. I was making arcade games, like literally physically
Yeah.
making.
So we have some photos of like when you guys were setting up the Catcade that I'd love to bring up because this is what you started as, right? So this is the Catcade before the Catcade was the Catcade. And tell me about what's going on here.
Oh, you can see the little pieces of arcade games that have not been fully assembled.
those and painted.
Yeah, so I've learned how to build like sit-down replicas of like sit-down Miss Pac-Mans. And then what I figured was, it's the future now. So all the components have been shrunk down significantly. So there's a lot of extra room. So what I figured was, why not hollow it out and then turn it into like a bed? So I did that. I took plans for an old Galaga, put those together, and I turned those into a cat tree.
Yeah, everything Chris has built. A few IKEA furniture pieces, but like all of the arcade games that are there, Chris put together himself, like with a giant sheet of MDF he cut down into pieces and made them.
And what I loved when I was there was you could actually like see cats sleeping in the beds that are at the bottom of the arcade games, and like it's not just a regular arcade game, it's like custom built to be for cats. And there's these little signs that say like this is not a seat for a human or something, like this is a cat bed. I love it.
That we heard in the beginning was, oh my God, cats don't need to be around all of that noise, blah blah blah. Yeah. And there's no noises on our arcade games, so we turned off all the sounds and everything so cats can have a peaceful time sleeping inside of there and everything. But also these cats are going to your home, and that's one of the things that a lot of people are always worried about is like, oh, isn't it loud, and I'm like, no, we turned off actually the sounds off on the arcade games, but these cats are going to your home. I mean, aren't you playing arcade games or like video games at home? Are you playing, you're watching television?
No, Chris, most of us don't have arcade games in our home. But I totally get it. I think it's great because in a setting like at the Catcade, these cats have the real life experience of like somebody coming over and, being around other animals, being around other people, being around, sounds and movement and stuff like that. So I think it's a much more like pragmatic head start for them than say like sitting in a cat all day or something like that.
Like living room environment, so it feels like home already to them. So they tend to settle in a lot faster when they come to us because it feels really comfortable. And
also that was our intention to we didn't want to make a place for cats. We wanted to make a place for people because that's where these cats are going. So when you go to other places, there's cat tunnels and cat trees and all this kind of stuff everywhere. And while we do have a few of those things, we want it to be more like a place for humans that cats exist in, as opposed to a cat room where that's not going to be generally what they're going to. They're going to be living in your living room. They're going to be living in your
I feel like Catcade, you guys do a great job of making it like a space that's like a catified version of a home where it's a wonderful place to be a cat or a person who loves cats. And, you go there and it's like, I wish my living room looked like that. That's great. I want to kind of shift gears to talking about like setting up a rescue, not physically, like, we saw what it looks like when you're setting it up, but like setting up the behind the scenes, because this is the part that people, a lot of people do have that mindset of they're watching Animal Planet and they go, all right, I got to start a cat rescue. And they're picturing, being surrounded by kittens. They're not picturing filling out paperwork for the next 3 years. Right. So I'm curious about like, your experience, because I have a 501c3 nonprofit too. And when I started, I thought, there's going to be some paperwork. But then it was like, oh my gosh, you have to fill out like a 1023 and get your board of directors and your bylaws. And you better know what a 990 is. And you better have an accountant, or you better be an accountant. You got to have like a budget. You got to have fundraising registrations in all 50 states. It's like, what? This is crazy. Like, so I'm curious if your experience was like mine with that, where you're like, wow, you really have to like quickly learn a lot and be ready for the admin part of all of it if you're going to have like a healthy 501c3 organization. So what was your experience like?
So I'm just going to I'm going to let Shelly tell this because she does a much better and more thorough job of it. But I just want to tell this quick anecdote of we were at a cat convention once, and a bunch of us went out to dinner afterwards. We were all sitting there. And there was a bunch of people who owned other cat cafes or cat rescues, and we're all hanging out. And I remember one person saying, you know, if I knew how much work this was going to be, I never would have done it. And I remember the whole table kind of like all at the same time kind of being like, wow, that was a really negative thing to say. But at the same time, I understand why you're saying it.
It's a lot of work.
There was a point where we were doing this whole journey, and I remember there was a point, and I remember passing it and being like, we can't go back. We can't go back. Oh my God, this is so much work. I never thought it would be even close to this much work. We thought, I remember before we even started, we were like, oh, $15,000. That's all we need to raise. That's all we need to raise for a brick and mortar place, to furnish it, to get everything, to get all the licensing and insurance and everything for a place on the north side of Chicago. We thought that that was going to be enough. And it was, we were naive, but like a lot of people in the world who just are trying to make their way, you know, you don't understand what you're getting yourself into, but you kind of find yourself and you find your purpose, and you find a sense of fulfillment in that journey. So, that's what I've got to contribute.
Shelly, what was surprising about it for you? How has that been for you?
So I was the one who ended up handling all of that. I just have a little bit more patience to do.
I'm old. Listen, if it's more than seriously, if there's more than 3 clicks, I just it's like I zone out. I'm like, I can't.
Shelly, I get it. Shelly, you and I are like the same. I get it. Gotta get business done.
And that's what I mean, there's always a balance when you do a business. So the balance for me is that I handle a lot of that admin stuff. I'd say 90% of my job is admin work. But it was, we don't have, me and Chris are both not college grads. We just were very DIY people. We just grew up like, we're going to make whatever we choose to do work, and that's what we're going to do. Like, we both went to school to be hairstylists. So for us, this was like a whole new adventure. And all I did was Google how to start a nonprofit. And then that led me in one direction. And then I was like, okay, now I need to do this. And it was, establishing your nonprofit, getting registered with the Secretary of State, and then filing for your 501c3, because you have to have a certain status to do that. Like, learning all of that, like, you think that it's just, I want to do this and I can do it, and it's that easy.
And a lot of that is all online. If there's anything you want to do, there's a YouTube video for, and at the same time, do research. Go to your local rescues. Go ask questions. There's a lot of things where we didn't know that we had to have a Department of Agriculture license. I remember at one point we're like, what is that? Do we have to have that? And we did.
That's me all the time, where you're like, okay, what is that? How do I get it? Do I really need it? And then you're like, oh no, I really do need all this stuff. Having gone through that experience, if someone watching this is like, I have a dream that I want to start a cat rescue, like, what would you tell them? Would you tell them, go for it? Or would you tell them, like, hang on and do your research, or volunteer for someone, or get involved? What would you tell somebody whose dream is to start a cat rescue?
I have a 2-part answer to that. So there is a part of me that's like, yeah, go for it, do it. Like, if you can dream it, you can do it. And then the second part of it is that I love what we do. What we do is exactly what I wanted our rescue to be. But there are so many rescues out there who need more help, who need someone who's got, a background in marketing, who can come in and help them, or who they need like one more spot filled in their organization, where instead of starting your own organization, you can help out another rescue who's already established, who just needs a little more insight or a little more
you can use
experience.
You can use your talents. Depending on who you are and what you do. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it and say, yeah, everybody should be doing this, blah, blah, blah. Because not everyone can do this, meaning, listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say like, oh, we're amazing, blah, blah, blah. We can't do 99% of the things out in this world, all right? Like, we're not those people. But there's certain things that this is tailored, this thing that we created is tailored to both of our personalities. especially. And so we talk about this all the time. Like, how do other people do this single-handedly? We have no idea how people do this. And so even with both of us and a staff, like, it still seems really overwhelming sometimes. But what would we tell people? I think that like to, piggyback on what Shelly said, was to go to your local rescue, find out what they need, what are their needs. Do they need photographers? Do they need attorneys? Do they need somebody to help them set up fundraisers? There's so many other aspects of things that you can do to feel fulfilled, rather than, people think that we spend all our day with cats. We don't. I would say 90% of the time of the work that we do for the Catcade, there's not a cat around us.
No, I've been working 6 hours today at home, and yes, I'm around my cats at home, but it's all emails and medical paperwork for cats, and it didn't involve touching animals at all.
I really like what you said about, that there are groups that need help, that, you don't necessarily have to start a group to be involved in a group. And, one thing that I hear a lot of in kind of conversations with people who want to start a rescue is I hear a lot of like, well, I'll start a rescue and I'll just get grants. And I'm like, there's really not that many grants available in animal welfare. And the reality is, the more groups we have competing for those resources, whether they are grants or individual donors, the more groups we have competing for those resources, we're sort of watering down our impact. Whereas if we have fewer groups who are really targeted in what they do, but we have more people behind them, more people fundraising, more people doing the marketing, the admin, all of those things, you can have a much more powerful group. So like my position on that always, whenever someone tells me they want to start a group, I'm like, if you want to start a rescue, the first thing I would say is like, get involved in a local organization and find out what the need really is in your community. And if there's not, if the groups already in your community are already meeting those needs and doing that work, then get involved with them. Really, to me, it's like you should start an organization if what you want to do doesn't exist, and if there's like a need that's not being met that you can meet. So I think, that's why it's great. Like groups like what you guys are doing, it is really unique. It's really creative. It's reaching like one specific subset of people who maybe would not otherwise like go into a shelter and meet a cat. But they'll go to an arcade and meet a cat and fall in love. But, that's what I always tell people is just like get involved in another group, because you also don't know until you're involved if this is even really for you, right?
Exactly. And that's another important thing that you touch on, is that sometimes I tell people, go volunteer at your local rescue and see if this is even something you're into. Because there are people who got into this industry and then they see a cat bleeding and they faint. And the thing is like when you rescue, not just doing adoptions, but like when you get into actual rescue work, like you're gonna see some of the worst of humanity, the terrible things that people do. It's a very, very unfortunate thing that comes along with the territory, and you have to be able to physically handle that. And some people can't, and I completely understand why you wouldn't. But that is a reality that comes along with this, and you have to ask yourself: do you have that in you to be able to see cats that are regularly abused, that you save? And obviously we do our best to get them healthy, to provide them love and care and a healthy household. That's our job. But a lot of times cats will come in and, like our staff, people, us, will get really emotional, or, one way or the other. Sometimes we'll get furious. But the one thing that we have to kind of remind each other about is that they're no longer being abused, and now they're with us. And that's a heavy thing to kind of comprehend.
Cat just popped up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Also, the thing is like,
I have a visitor. Hi, Coco.
Is you bringing these cats into your care, and you care for them, and you give them so much love, and then you got to let them go. And Hannah, I know that you know what I'm talking about.
You have a whole table of kittens that you have to let go.
You have to let go.
Yeah. Let's look at them real fast. Let's see what they're doing. Yeah. Oh boy. The window's like half an inch open so that they can get some fresh air. That's very exciting. Yeah, these guys, almost all of these guys are getting adopted in a couple of days here, which is exciting. Um, but you're right. You do have to get accustomed to, like the cycle of falling in love with cats and then saying goodbye to them.
Like, I mean, you're saying, which is like goodbye is the goal, is something that sounds so, I guess, simple, but is a really tough thing to kind of internalize when you fall in love with these cats that you put in so much work and so much care for, and then you have to adopt them out because that's what our job is. But a lot of, that's not for everyone. And so
Sure.
what I always tell people is volunteer, go see what the need is in your community, because maybe your community doesn't need another cat rescue. Maybe it just needs more support. Maybe it needs more funding. Maybe it needs more money. And then
Yeah.
on top of that, maybe this is not what you're cut out to. Nobody gets rich in rescue as
No.
well. So if you and your future goal is to become a millionaire, you don't go into a nonprofit cat rescue. That's what you don't create that. So like I said, if your job is to become, you want to become a multimillionaire, that's great, wonderful. It's probably not the line of work for you.
Sure. Yeah, you're paid richly in purrs and affection and gratitude from cats.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I'm curious if you can talk about like what percentage of your day do you spend doing cute cat things, and what percentage of your day do you spend like scooping poop and like cleaning up after cats and stuff like that? Like,
Yeah. So
It's right on your shirt.
I'd say, oh yay! Speaking of the gross stuff,
I know Coco's doing everything in her power to like get her butt on the screen. She's like, just show my butt. Just show it. I'm like, no one wants to see that, Coco.
We all
No
want
one
to see
wants
it.
to see that. She's like, just let me show my butt.
do it. That's so funny.
So,
I would
okay,
say
so
you cuddly, like the easy stuff with cats, like petting them, cuddling them, 5% of my day.
I would say 15, 20 minutes of the day.
It's a very small portion because
yeah.
unless I actually physically sit down around the cats and am on my computer around them, which is usually more distracting than anything.
Mhm. Because you're looking at their health, and the one thing that you can't you can't separate yourself from in doing this is when a cat sits down next to you, you're like, oh, what is this? What is this? Is this? Let's look at their ears. Oh, their ears need to be cleaned. Oh, well, if their ears need to be cleaned, we should probably check everybody's ears. Oh my God, do you have a flea? Oh my God, well, we need to revolution the whole floor. Like, there's so many things that go on.
I think I have a picture in here of like there it is. A cat. Like, this is the reality is like, I try to get like cute videos and photos of like the kittens being adorable, but the reality is like sometimes you walk in there and they've just like spray painted the wall with poop, and you're like, how do you even get poop on the wall? That's amazing. Like,
and that's
impressive.
So,
and that's the one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that is the reality.
This
the
was
reality.
5 minutes before you open, right after you finished mopping.
This is the reality where there's cats throwing up and there's cats pooping, and because we're always bringing in cats who come in from really, really rough situations, and they're just acclimating to new rich nutrient food, like they're acclimating themselves, or they're working their parasites out. There's so many things that are unpredictable with cats, and this goes back to what I said in the beginning, that there is nothing that's predictable about any of this.
oh, Connie is so cute. Look at her. So, so as somebody who also runs a nonprofit, I know that, when you first start out, you get a lot of inquiries, maybe more asks than you can say yes to. What I find is like kind of the more you do, the more you're asked to do. So, you take on the capacity that you can handle, and then it's just like this avalanche of requests come in, because until you're running a rescue, you really don't realize how big the volume of need is. So I'm curious for you guys, has boundary setting had to be part of what you do as you're, setting your mission? How are you thinking about, working within a realistic capacity, whether that's, people power or finances, things like that. Like, how do you work within reality so that you can accomplish your mission strategically and decide what you can do and what you can't do?
Oh yeah. Chris does a really, really great job of helping like rein us in. I tend to lead with my heart a lot, and he is very pragmatic and looks at the bigger picture of things.
The thing is that, I mean, again, it's a testament to who she is as a person. If it was up to us, we would try to save all of the cats. That would be great. But people who try to save all of the cats end up depleting their resources. And when they deplete their resources, I don't mean just money. I mean also staff. You overwork your staff. You emotionally overwhelm yourself. So you're no longer productive. We do a great job for this much time. The idea is that this is an ongoing thing because there will always be cats that need to be saved. And so what I always say is it's important to create a sustainable business plan. And the only way that you can do that is by saying no.
Boundaries.
Exactly. Saying no, setting boundaries, and being able to rescue the next day. Okay? It's important to be able to do it next month, the next year. And you can't do that if you're pulling 20 Connies a month. And I love Connie. She's wonderful. And I'm glad that we rescued her. But, I mean, a $5,000 cat, you can only save so many $5,000 cats before you can no longer pay for your electric bill. Before you can, And so these are things that, I don't think that a lot of people understand when they bring in a box of kittens. And so, I was talking about this the other day. Somebody walks in with a box of kittens. And they're like, here's 6 kittens. And we're like, oh, my God. And it's like, yes, that's what we're here to do. Our job is to rescue animals. Our job is to care for these cats. But at the same time, I look at that box, and of course, we took the cats. But here's the thing. When I look at that box, I look and I'm like, all right, that's $2,000 that we did not budget for this month.
Yeah, cats, what you forget and what you don't see, that we only see on our side of things, is that rescuing cats costs a lot of money. From dewormers to vaccines to just
the whole host of medical problems that are going to come with that.
Happens. So, we created our own little chart that helps us plug in, what is a healthy animal who's only going to need, medications for an upper respiratory infection or the basics is what we call that.
Yeah, the basics.
Versus, a cat who needs, heavy medical needs. Like right now we have 2 cats with heart murmurs. And those cats are going to be very expensive and take a lot of fun. Yeah, they're going to take a lot of funding away from, the ability to save more animals. So we've learned to say no. We learn what our limits are. So for us, we know that we can't save neonatal kittens. That is just not in our wheelhouse. And while we wish we could, we want to be able to do right by the animals that we save. So we stick to 6-week-old kittens and up.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing to say no. It is, and it's hard. It's really difficult to say no to cats who need your help. And but again, it's about making a sustainable business and being able to rescue again the next day. So.
Sure. Yeah, I really relate to that. With my nonprofit work, we had to set a really specific, it's kind of the opposite of you, where we're we work with the 0 to 8-week-old population. We don't work outside of that population. And it's not because I don't love a 9-week-old kitten. It's not because I don't love a 9-year-old cat, but it's because if I start taking in every 9-year-old cat and every 19-year-old cat, suddenly I'm not able to do my good work for the population that I set out to help. And so I think that's a real lesson for anybody who is thinking of starting a rescue, is to choose the population you're going to focus on and then really set your guidelines and get it right in your heart first, where you're okay with knowing that you're not going to be able to do it all.
Yes.
What happened?
Our vacuum just started.
No, that's okay. That's okay. This is part of doing everything from home, man. Stuff happens.
No, and it's so true. When we started, I thought that we would save every cat. I was like, yes, we're just going to save them all And knowing exactly what we're good at, I think is so important to the fact that we get to that we've saved over 1,000 animals in less than
1,100.
3 years.
It's amazing.
1,100 in less than
It's
3 years.
amazing.
So I think
It's
that's super.
amazing. And I do think this goes back to a point that we were making earlier about like, that we don't need to have a million different organizations, but we do need to have targeted organizations that do what they do best. And so I'm very grateful that there are organizations that work with adult cats or senior cats, because that means I don't have to do that. They can do that, and I can refer to them. And that also comes back to like, there really being a community here. So it's like we can say yes to what we say yes to, and we can not just say no to the things we can't do, but we can say, let me find another resource for you,
Oh, totally. Oh my gosh. Who is the little kitten in your feed who is hanging their head over the edge?
Oh, let's look. I think let's see. I have to do I think that's Cooper.
Get the fly is the real
That's
question.
Cooper.
Did we miss it?
Look at the bellies. Look at Lucy. She's like, look at that. Lucy is the little tiny one on the right who's like breathing really fast, and her belly is like she's like a bullfrog. She's so funny. She's very funny shape. People are gonna think that I like sedated these guys or something. They just had a meal right before, and you know how it is. Kittens only have 2 modes, on and off, and like off tends to come right after they eat. So
they look so relaxed.
Yeah. So okay, so we talked about kind of like setting boundaries and knowing when to say no, but I'm curious about when you say yes, and I want to know if there's like a specific case that you said yes to that you're really proud of, maybe one of those more complicated cases that you were able to help with.
Yeah. Obviously, besides our sweet Connie, and it's so easy to talk about her because she's right here, but we can talk about Tucker. Mm-hmm. So oh gosh, his stupid little voice is so cute.
So cute.
So actually in this picture you can see like right by his little nose, he's got like a little wound. And what you can't see is the amount of wounds that are actually all over his body. So we take a lot of animals in from southeastern Kentucky. And the transport usually leaves like midday on Friday and drives through the night. And we get them Saturday morning super early. So there's always a cutoff for when you can add an animal to the transport, because they have to have vaccines and meet like a certain regulation before they can cross state lines. So he got posted in this group that we follow to know who's available. And someone reached out and they said, hey, there's this cat. He was physically thrown from a vehicle, and the woman who was driving behind the vehicle saw it happen, stopped, pulled her car over, and grabbed him and took him straight to a vet. We have 20 minutes before the truck leaves. Can we put him on the truck? So we were like, okay. And they said he was a 2-year-old cat. So we were planning.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just remember that they said this is a 2-year-old cat.
Anyone who looks at this picture,
I don't know why I find that so funny right now. Sorry.
So anyone who's been an animal
rescue, people sometimes they kind of like embellish and stretch the tooth a little bit,
I get to our pickup point where we meet, the truck, and I get there and I open his carrier to like check him out, and he walks out super sweet, very kind, and I look at his eyes, and you can see it in this picture. I was like, sir, you are not a 2-year-old cat. You have like the senior, like that glaze that comes over their eyes as they age. And I'm like, you are an old cat.
That is an 85-year-old man. And he came out with a limp.
Oh.
And he came out.
That's him in his foster.
But you got to know what it took to get him from that first picture to this picture.
Oh my gosh.
Go ahead.
His fur was just coming out in clumps. He had road rash over his whole body. Shockingly, not a single broken bone.
Hold on. You got to tell him that he threw up a twig and a cigarette butt.
Oh, that night. So we put him immediately into a foster.
Oh my gosh.
And it was appalling.
So we got x-rays on him, and it turned out his leg wasn't just broken. It was as if you took it and just went, and it was like mangled.
It was like an S. It looked like an S, and it was such an old break. The calcification on it.
You couldn't fix it. You wouldn't be able to
So
fix it.
we debated amputating it, but he moved and could manage himself so well with the leg that we didn't want to do it to such an old cat.
Tell him about the spinal manipulation, and then we got him. We got him a chiropractor. Did you know
Oh,
that
look
there's
at him.
that there's feline chiropractors? Because there are.
I've never been to one. I've done like cat acupuncture, and
Yeah.
I think, is that the chiropractor?
Yeah, that's
Oh my gosh.
who's doing the and
Wow.
and
I mean, I love that. There's so much amazing like veterinary specialty stuff that people don't
Amazing
even
work.
realize is out there. Yes.
What's
I love
even
that.
cooler is that we had just posted about him, and our friend who works at a vet office, she contacted us and she was like, "Hey guys, so one of the doctors at our practice, she does spinal manipulation. Can she come to the Catcade and do it for him?" And I was like, "Okay,
We were
I
like,
don't
"What?"
believe in chiropractors for humans.
I do.
I just don't. I don't do it myself."
Well, she does. She hasn't done it. That's why.
It feels
She's scared.
good. It feels good. It feels
I
really
love
good. I'm not gonna lie.
It's terrifying, but I
Okay.
feel great.
So she was like, "She'll come by," and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, well, that's fine. If she's gonna come by and do it for free, who cares?" And like, it's not gonna hurt him. It's only gonna help if it's gonna work. And he was so like, he could barely like move. You could sense he was just in pain every time he moved. And she came and did one appointment, and he moved so well.
He was running.
So she ended up doing
Wow.
4 or 5 appointments for us. Look
So
at
that
him
helped
now!
him. Wow, look at that. Yeah, I mean, he looks great there.
It was
He looks great there.
unbelievable.
So that really helped him.
Night and day.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You never would have guessed that is the same cat that came in, and there was like
Wow.
had 1 foot in the grave. Like seriously.
He was in such rough shape. He just like he'd be like, "Oh, I guess I'll get out of bed," and just you had to put his litter box right next to his bed because he couldn't go far enough. It was really sad.
Yeah.
But he ended up getting adopted.
I think this is one of those things where it's like that is the power, one, of love, but also the power of modern medicine. And sometimes I think we do a little bit in rescue. We see people who do a little too much of the love and not enough of the medicine part of it, where it's like, sometimes medicine really is the best medicine. And like going to a vet, this is why you have to be able to budget for this stuff because just like loving sometimes is not enough, and taking them in for those diagnostics, we can't know what's going on with them if we don't have the diagnostics, the ability to like do the specialty care. So it's so powerful to see like something that, you're like, okay, I don't even know if this is going to work. And then it does work. You can really see the difference of good veterinary care. What has that been like for you guys, like working with vets and finding vets who will do these more complex cases?
Yeah, we so I handle the medical side of things mainly, and then so what we decided to do early on within our first year is we hired a vet to be on staff with us. So she's so amazing, and I've called her at midnight when I've had an emergency, and I've texted her at all hours, and she's so responsive and so just cares about the animals and making sure that they're getting what they need.
She's on our team. Like she feels like she's part of our team, not like somebody that we hire that comes in to take care of them, but she's like on our side, and that makes a huge difference when we do these things.
We have an amazing surgeon, so she does all of our spay and neuters, our eye enucleations. She does our leg amputations, and so we have a really great medical side of things. And then really cool, this actually all just happened this week, was we pulled a cat from animal control in Chicago who had a horrible skin issue that looked like ringworm or like mange. And we're like, all right, well, he sat there for 10 days, and we're like, we can't leave this cat there anymore.
Yeah, sat at animal control.
And nobody wants to take an animal with ringworm, potentially. So I get it. So we took him in. We got him into a foster home. We started doing, certain treatments, trying to figure out what it was, doing skin scrapings and everything. And funny enough, on Facebook, a vet commented and said, "Have you tested for pemphigus?" We were like, oh, it wasn't a test we ran. So we spoke to our medical team and we were like, hey, how about this as an option?
Which we never really heard of.
Never heard of it. And we're like, okay, we got him in the next day for an appointment to have, he had to be sedated and have biopsies taken. We sent it out through, we have our own testing, system with IDEX. We sent it out. It came back positive, and now we have that cat on the right meds that he needs.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's all really
It's
cool
awesome to be able to do the diagnostics because you can't know, you can't know if you don't. And this is why, I think even not for rescuers, but people who just have a cat, a lot of people don't take their cat to the vet regularly. And you can't know what you need to do if you don't have a vet who can, they have the knowledge to go, well, why don't we test for this? Why don't we try this thing? And it can make all the difference for them.
For sure. Having a vet who is willing to try new things and different things where I'm like, hey, have you ever done this? Can we do this? How do you feel about this? And she's like, okay. That's really important to us.
Yeah.
She's very forward thinking. Yeah, she's very forward thinking, and she's very open to trying new things and learning, which is a great trait to find in any kind of medical professional, because a lot of people tend to get stuck in their ways, and they're like, nope, I know enough, and she's really progressive, and we love her for it.
Speaking of like having a team, I think it's awesome that you guys are, you have a vet on your staff. I know that the image of the Catcade very much calls to mind like Chris and Shelly, but there are other people involved, right? So you have volunteers, right? Oh my gosh, look at all these calicos. It's like amazing. Okay, so here's some of your volunteers. Can you talk about like how have you built a community around your rescue? Because it started out with the two of you in your living room watching Pit Bulls and Parolees and talking about starting a cat arcade, and now you have this whole community of support. So how did you build that, and what are some of the sort of principles that you think are important to have with having like a positive culture within your team?
Well, one of that's funny though, that those pictures are from our holiday party. Is that the potluck one that we did?
I love it.
No, we catered at Olive Garden.
Yeah, we did. No, so what we did was, the one thing that I think that makes us a little bit different from a lot of other either rescues or cat cafes is the fact that we were both the kind of weirdos, growing up. And that kind of lends itself to the image that we project into the world. And that's what we wanted to do, is we wanted to basically like, look, there's a cat for every person out there. People always get the impression of this like, typical like, oh, cat lady. And it's this stereotype from like the 80s, and it's ridiculous. And there's so many different types of people who love and care for cats. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to create a space where people felt safe, where we were intentionally inclusive, where we, we swear. We swear on our social media, and oh my God, that's so edgy. And it's not. It's not when the majority
we won't swear here.
Yeah, we won't swear here because, you told me it's nice. But did you know what I'm saying? Like, we want to be relatable. We want you to understand that, like, not every cat person looks and sounds the same. And sometimes we sound like your cranky older brother who's blasting music, upstairs. And you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's
Sure.
That's what we created. And we wanted to create this unique space where we have like, it's a cat adoption lounge, but then there's arcade games. Why are there arcade games? What does that have to do with cat rescue? Not anything, like nothing. It has nothing to do with it, but it's there because I think it represents who we are as people. Like if you come into our facility now and you know who Chris and Shelly are, you'll be like, yeah, this is the place that Chris and Shelly created. This makes sense.
Sure. And I think that's so inspiring for other people who maybe they don't have the same exact interests as you, they don't have the same exact aesthetic as you, but they have their own interests, their own aesthetic, and they can, like layer your interests, like find this intersection of like who you are, what you love, and saving cats. And you can do any version of this. I think that's what's that's why I wanted to talk to you guys, because I think I want people to see that you don't just have to do what somebody else has done. You can
Exactly.
create a very authentic space.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the things that not just in our community, but like in the world in general, I think people are afraid to kind of go outside of this safe, like a safe kind of cookie cutter, the thing that came before them, because they're afraid they're gonna scare people off. And one of the things that we heard from somebody else who ran a rescue was that, yeah, you know what? You can be yourself. You can look the way that you do. You can sound the way that you do, and project this image of who you are. And you're going to lose dollars. You're going to lose donor dollars. And she straight up told us this, and it wasn't a bad thing. She's just like, you're gonna turn off a lot of people. And you know what? Maybe so. And we completely understand that, but we try to be authentic and genuine in everything that we do. So,
But I
and that's
think
what we
for the
want.
people that you do reach, the people you do reach who feel something in common with you, it's such a breath of fresh air. And I want to kind of talk about your social media presence, because I think a lot of the support that you get is from people who find you online. And I love following you guys online. You make me laugh like all the time. Anyone who doesn't follow the Catcade online, you really should. They're very funny and they're very them. And you're funny. I laugh all the time at your stuff. So I have an Instagram post that I was going to show. This is just like a recent one that I pulled. It's such a cute picture, 3 little kittens, and I have the full text of it. I'm going to read it, because what you do with your social media that I love is you write these like long rants that seem unrelated to cats, and then they like become related to cats, and by the end of it you're like laughing and crying, and it's like, oh, it's just great. So I'm just going to read this to show what a funny and unique Instagram presence you guys have. Okay, here we go. You ready? I'm going to do my best, Chris.
Okay.
The past few months have been rough on all of us. While all of us have had drastically different experiences, one of the few things many of us have learned is how wonderful it is not to be around a lot of people. Oh, sure, there are plenty of Stacys reading this who are like, they canceled Coachella. What will Instagram do without pictures of an overpriced new hippie dust fest? And that's fine. You do you, Travis. But listen, some of us are tired. Tired of the superficial race to impress, tired of spending money on lackluster and unfulfilling experiences, and tired of the heat, because sweating is for young people, and a lot of us are just old at heart. I mean, so many of us would take a no-pants early dinner over a double-fisted chug street fest any day. And while this is wonderful and all, we all still need a little excitement in our lives. And nothing is more adorably exciting than a rage kitten. Now I know you've been thinking, how fast can one sprint from one end of my living room to the other? Well, we here at the Catcade have a solution to your problem. We have designed these very special orange ones that are extra fast, so you won't even have to leave the comfort of your own sadness blanket. Just fill out some paperwork, be approved, pay an adoption fee, and just like that, you can have a speed gremlin racing across your jiggly bits in no time. Oh no need to thank us for the great community service we provide. Our job is to keep you as lazy and entertained as possible. As usual, Levon, Brick, and Wade need to be adopted to a household with another young and playful cat, or feeling adventurous and want to punish your furniture with the most affectionate mayhem on the market, adopt all 3. I dare you. Wow. I mean, that's a caption.
I never thought.
How do you come up with this stuff?
I never thought anyone would read this stuff back to me. I really did. These are all disposable garbage thoughts that come out of my brain at 2 a.m. while I'm sitting there. And I'm like, oh, I gotta make another post about cats. And I'm sitting on the couch with one eye open, and I'm on my phone, and I'm like, oh. And I never think. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that one, I thought that one was good, and it doesn't resonate with people. And then other ones, I'm like, oh, that thing was garbage. And then Hannah Shaw is reading back this thing to me. You know what I'm saying? Like weeks later.
I think it's funny.
I mean, it's one of those things where we, in the beginning, we know the power of social media. We both understand that in 2020, in order to do rescue work, you really have to have an online presence. It's just, you have to. It's almost essential.
Sure.
You have to evolve with the times. And one of our friends who runs another cat cafe / rescue said, I would get 0 cats adopted if it wasn't for Instagram. And so we understand this. And one of the things that I tried to cultivate in the beginning, which I talked to Shelly about, and she agreed, was the Catcade isn't just cats. The Catcade is cats, Chris, and Shelly. And the reason being is because when you feel like you know somebody, or when you feel like you watch somebody's journey, you feel more close to them. You feel more connected to them. And that was what I wanted to do. I want people to see the ugly parts. I want people to see the pictures where cats throw up all over the place. And this is what I got to deal with 5 minutes before we open. It's important, it's important to see like the crankiness between us. Like it's not perfect. Everything's not perfect, and it's not always pretty. And I think that makes it relatable. But I think that people understand at the end of the day that as imperfect as we are and as abrasive as we are, that we do our best to do right by these cats. And if that means, I have to, make some posts that are ridiculous in the middle of the night, if that entertains somebody and it keeps them coming back, great. Perfect. That's wonderful. That's what we want. We want you to come back. So like in a year and a half from now, you can be like, oh, my Aunt Kathy is looking for 3 cats. You know what? I've got a place for you. Check this out. And then she's going to be like, oh, I know about them. They're awful. They're obnoxious. I don't want anything to do with them.
That's fun.
No, but you know what? The reason that I wanted to share this, and I hope that people who are watching can understand really like the magic behind all of this. What I really want to get at is that, we don't have to, in animal welfare, we don't just have to do like the status quo. We can do it in a way that is like really authentic, true to ourselves. And when we do that, when we allow ourselves to be seen, I think people really want to root for you. When I donate to the Catcade, it's not some faceless organization. It's like I see the struggle, I see the celebration, I see the people behind it, and you want to root for them. I think that that's been really important for my nonprofit work. I think it's been important for you guys. And so when I see organizations that are doing good work but are kind of faceless, I always want to be like, put a face to it, like let people see you. I'm wondering how you guys would say, to somebody who feels really vulnerable, or maybe do you ever feel vulnerable doing that, like being open? What advice would you give to somebody who's, maybe a little bit scared of having a face associated with their organization?
I would say it's okay to be who you are. It was really scary for me. I remember the first time he made a weird post, and it was probably 3 months in, and I was like, what are you doing? I woke up the next morning and I was like, no, I'm going to delete it. He's like, look at all the people who are engaging with it, who enjoy it and are laughing, and they're laughing with us. And I was like, I don't know. And for me, I was always the weird kid growing up, and I wasn't necessarily part of the cool kids club. And so I was like, but it'll make people not like us. And that scared me. And Chris was actually really supportive in being like, no, it's okay. We can be exactly who we are. And it's okay if people don't like you. But think of all the people who will love you because you are who you are.
So, one way that people can become part of your community is through your Friends of Leo program. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about fundraising and how that program came to be, and who's Leo and what's Friends of Leo. How can people help?
Yeah, Leo is a cat who came to the Catcade on our very first transport ever. He was part of the initial 10 cats who started the Catcade. And he just thrived in our environment. He like absorbs all of the energy from the room, all the people. He just needs that kind of stimulation. Look at how glorious he is. He just needs it. He loves driving on it. So we decided to keep him, and he's a resident at the Catcade. He lives there forever. He gets so much care and treatment. He does not miss not being in a home. So we were thinking about putting together a monthly donor program, because running the Catcade, as we've talked about, is very expensive. Taking care of cats is. So we came up with Friends of Leo. So you get to be Leo's friend. If you would like to choose to donate every month, Your Leo's friend, you get an email from him every month. Sometimes he might send you a little letter in the mail. He's got a few little tricks up his sleeve.
I love that. Yeah. Oh, there's Leo with a bunch of kittens. So I've visited you guys and I've seen him. He seems to just absolutely adore all the attention that he gets both from cats and from visitors. So I love that you have that like monthly donor program. Can you kind of speak to, like, from a fundraising perspective, what difference does that make for you guys? And for somebody who was thinking of, doing their own rescue work and having, fundraising, like, what advice would you give them?
Mostly cultivate an online presence. You need to have a foundation. People think that when you start a nonprofit that there's just like mountains of nonprofit dollars that people are throwing around, and it's not true. I know personally people who run nonprofits or in cat rescue and in other areas who cannot get the funding that they need to run a sustainable business. And the thing is people have to know why they're giving this money to you. They have to trust you. You don't just put a nonprofit stamp on your business and then a waterfall of dollars come in, because that's not how it works. People want to know where it's going. They want to know that you're going to be responsible with it. They want to see what you're doing with that money. And that's one of the most important things that people forget, is that just because you throw dollars at something, people want to know, what did I just donate to? Where is that money going? I just gave you $100.
They want to see the videos of Connie, and they want to see the videos of Tucker, and they want to see the 3 kittens that you just took in, and all of that. Exactly.
And I think that a lot of people forget that. Also being grateful. People need to, people want to know that they're, I don't think it's a truly altruistic act of giving money towards a charity. I think that there's a certain amount of satisfaction that comes with it, myself included, and like people like to be thanked. People like to know that, show what you're doing, show this money, show these wish list items. All of these things are extremely important. And I think that gratitude is just as much of an important product that you put out into the world as is the money that comes in.
Yeah, I think
sure. I think. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I was gonna say I think fundraising is more than just asking for money, just like a blanket ask. It's, why are you asking for money? What are you going to do with it? Where is it going to go? How, you just asked for money a week ago. It's.
What? Yeah, and it's like you get all these people who are, saying like, I just asked for money last week. You just asked for money the week before, and then what that does is it gives the perception of, what are you doing? What are you doing with all this money? Why do you have to keep asking? Maybe you need to rethink your business plan. Maybe you're not utilizing your funds correctly.
Being strategic about what you do and like making sure that you share everything. I think for me, it's like gratitude is at the center of absolutely all of it, because you can do nothing as a nonprofit. You can do nothing without a community of support around you. So, the biggest piece of advice that I always have regarding fundraising is focus less on getting new donors and focus more on thanking and showing your gratitude to the community that you do have. Because if you can keep somebody, if you can keep them with you and make them feel like they really are part of your community by, sending them that letter from Leo, or, surprising them just with a little, thank you note, that is going to sustain you for so much longer. And, being able to show people the important work you're doing and make them feel like they're a part of it, that's really everything. So I love your Friends of Leo program. I think it's really, really great. I have just one last question for you guys, and this is like a silly question, but it does relate to Leo. So this is a fun would you rather question. And the question is, would you rather cuddle a 100-pound Leo or 100 1-pound Leos?
Oh!
Oh my gosh! What you have to remember is Leo is already 17 pounds. He's already.
What a great idea. And I love how much time you put into making this graphic.
I
which
think
one would you choose? And then you have to tell me why. Like, are you gonna cuddle with this huge
This is a
Leo or
really
like a
good
bunch of little ones?
All right, go ahead. You go first.
I think I'm gonna go with 100 Leos, little baby Leos, because we never got to see Leo as a little baby. He was always just been a giant hunkin' male. So if I had a whole 100 little Leos all over me,
I was going the opposite way, which how amazing would it be to have 100-pound Leo? Because he'd be
He'd
so
just, like,
massive, he'd be
hug
like a tiger. He would be like a tiger, and then I just get to sit and knowing how much he loves to cuddle. Like I would just hold him, I would spoon him, and he'd be a giant tiger that you just get to spoon and fall asleep with on the couch. Like, listen, I'm not saying that 100 little Leos wouldn't be amazing, but I know that they'd be like climbing up the curtains and knocking everything over. 100-pound Leo is going to be even lazier than the Leo that he is, and he loves to cuddle. That's my final
so
answer.
much thought.
Okay, all right. Well, it sounds like you're divided on that, but I loved your answers. And if you are gonna ever cuddle 100-pound cat, just don't get them wound up and playful and end up with a claw in your side. But that is everything that I have. So thank you guys so very much for participating in this interview with me today. I think you guys do great work and.
Thank you for trusting us. Number one, to be on this thing, just in general, but trusting us with your first one. Like, how cool is that?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the idea of this whole series is really to just like chat about different subjects in animal welfare. And this one was to kind of help people who are thinking about starting a cat rescue or wrapping their head around what goes into that. So I thought, who better than you guys, because you guys keep it so real. You do such wonderful work. I'm really grateful for everything that you do with the Catcade. So where can people find you if they want to support you or follow you? Where are all the places that they can find you?
Like where we live, or is that
Not your house, online. Come on. I mean, you can give people your address if you want. People can send you a pizza. No.
We are, so it's the Catcade. It's like arcade, but with a cat. So it's, our Instagram is the Catcade, our Facebook is the Catcade, our website is thecatcade.org.
We are located at 1235 West Belmont in Lakeview, in the Lakeview neighborhood on the north side of Chicago.
That is not our personal address. That is the Catcade address.
We call it our second apartment. We are there when we're open, so who knows when we'll be open. But when we open, come see us. We don't have a phone number, so don't try calling us.
Okay, all right. Well, I hope that you guys are able to open soon, and I very much miss being able to come and visit. So hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll be able to have people visiting Catcade again and meeting all of the adoptable cats. And, but thank you guys so much for the work that you're doing, and thanks for being here with me.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you to Royal Canin for making this all possible.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. That was a really fun conversation with two of my favorite people. I want to again thank Royal Canin for partnering on this initiative. They have some really great things going on right now, including their Take Your Cat to the Vet campaign. So you can hop on royalcanin.com/cathealth to learn all about that. One thing that I did want to mention is if you're buying your Royal Canin cat food, if you do it right now through chewy.com, that is going to support Greater Good, which is using those funds to provide veterinary care to cats in shelters. So great way to help out just by buying your Royal Canin food through chewy.com. So head to royalcanin.com/cathealth to learn more about that. Please stay tuned because next week I'm going to have another fun guest. My next guest is going to be John Peevler. He is a emergency services specialist. We're going to be talking all about disaster preparedness for cats. It's going to be a really interesting conversation, and I'm super excited to talk to him. So stay curious, stay compassionate, and tune in next week for another episode of Kitten Lady and Friends. Bye, guys.